life works, that we have 3 people in the room who have won free readings with me today. It's like a little bit of magic. And Adriana is setting us up here on Facebook Live. We're on the 11th house where all people gather together. Is that how you guys found us, from the 11th house? We don't even know.
I'm not even sure.
Yeah,
we found us through Instagram.
On Instagram, and Will is part of our family in the community. So what happened is we're advertising live.comemeettheplanets.com. It's a 1-hour class each week on Wednesday in June, where I'm teaching Meet the Planets. So it's a reintroduction to the psychological angle of how the planets affect us. And I'm trying to create lots of noise about my best friends, the planets. So now I've made 3 new best friends here in this room called Sasha, Taran, and Will. And they advertised, they had to do something you guys would know better. You had to post it on your site and then answer some questions. Is that how you got in here?
Yeah, I think so.
So now they've somehow, out of the random skies and how life works, we've randomly picked these 3 people to do a little dance today. And we're going to look at each of their charts and identify. So let me begin by saying, the thing about astrology, and 2 of these students have not taken our school. They've not been through a class. They've just flirt with astrology and are in love with it. So many of us are. Will has been through all 3 levels, so he's a little more advanced. But nonetheless, it's a question mark about the planets are always talking to us, and they show up in our psychology. They show up in our fixations. And so I go from just pure astrology to the psychology of astrology. Like, how does it translate into our unconscious mind, into our behaviors? And then how do we have permission to change it? That's the real question. How do we introduce a new thought process? And that's why we're going to meet the planets and study astrology. So I'm going to take, first I'm going to do Will, because he's got the language down. So we're going to pull up his chart, because he's been through all 3 levels, and we'll be able to much easier distinguish what planet or planets, it can be plural, are affecting his world. So if you pull up Will's chart, Adriana, and then here we go. Oh, this is such a cool chart. Something happened in 1984. There was a whole bunch of planets in Sagittarius. They just kind of had a party. So we have Sun in Capricorn, Moon in Cancer. Now, it could have been a full moon. If it was actually a full moon, it's kind of like today. The moon looks full, but it's 1 day off. This is Will. Can you point, Adriana, to the Sun in Capricorn? And then opposite is the moon in Cancer. If it was exactly opposite, just go down into the first house. It would be down just a little bit. Right, oops, right there. Yes, it would be right there. A full moon is always when the sun and moon are opposite, but still Will has that Sun in Capricorn, moon in Cancer. And then look at those planets in the 6th house. So see where the number 6 is? In the middle of the circle, we see all the numbers of the houses. So it goes from 1 to 12, right around the circle. Can you go right around the circle and show the 12 houses? So from 1 to 12 is where the houses live. And what we predominantly look for is, where is there a stellium? And in Will's case, he has, count them, 5 planets in the 6th house. So we're looking for the planet that's very standoutish. And I happen to know a bit of Will's story because he was in level 3. So Will, without me, this is so obvious to me, but I want to just start by saying, when the planets are conjunct, in his case, he has Mercury. You can point to Mercury, the little guy with his hat on his head, standing right next to Neptune. So I immediately know that Will is a mystical, magical tour. Am I right, or am I right, Will?
Yeah.
So just show us where you are right now. Can we just take a little glimpse? He's at the Olympics. This is so Neptune. In the name of water, he's overlooking. Tell us what you're doing there, just to give us a context to where you are.
So I'm up in the ceiling of our arena here in Omaha, Nebraska, where we do the Olympic swim trials every 4 years. In this case, 5 years, because of our lockdown last year. But yeah, you can see the big pool that we had to build in the middle of our arena, and then a big deck around that. And they just, the firemen just came and did the initial fill up for the press. So
I love the story. This is so him. So Neptune conjunct Mercury. Let's start there. I'm going to just ask you, if you could tell me, all 3 of you, I'm going to ask you this question. If there was a repetitive theme that occurred in your world, whether it's from the thought process you have, to the art that you do, to addiction, to relationship dynamics. What would be some themes, Will, that have reoccurred in your life this lifetime?
Change is a big one. I've had to just get used to it, that it's nothing's ever going to stay the same. And so I can't stand repetition. Uh, and escapism can be a low road for me, and has been in the past. I think I've pretty much conquered that, though.
Yes. So change and escapism. Any other? Those are two really good ones that help me. Any other one?
Emotions. I've been a very emotional person since I was a little kid. And
Double Cancer. He's a double Cancer. Announcement.
Yeah.
Sun and Cancer. I left that out. Moon in Cancer and Cancer rising. So first thing that stands out in your chart would be that moon. You can circle it, Adriana. If I were to point to one planet that clearly is opposite everything and is in a powerful relationship with your Mars and your Pluto down there, that big blue line, see the long blue line from the moon down, and then the big red line from the moon across, take us to the moon right across. So let's describe the moon. You can stop sharing. I'm going to grab the moon for a minute to start with for Will. So he gave me a clue. This is how you do it. So a theme in your life keeps reoccurring and you feel like you're not in control of it because it's clearly controlling you. And that's true. The planets control us. I hate to say it, but it's true. And then the free will button gets cultivated and you put a little strap on and you stand above the water. It's so symbolic. And you stand above the whole thing and you turn your observer on. But talk about that moon. So you were emotional. Describe it as a child. Like this is the moon, by the way. The moon rules emotions. So give us a little more detail.
Yeah, so I would get upset, and like even when it came time to like figure out what to eat at a restaurant, I would get this anxiety because there's so many choices, and I would get upset and everybody else would have to order and they'd have to tell the waiter to come back for me.
Because so your emotional body would kind of cascade and then it would take you over.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get out from under the water. It's so symbolic. So
Right.
you couldn't, so the emotional body. So this would be, so in a simple version to start with, I would point at the moon to begin with because he's a double Cancer. It's a clue. Here's another thing you're going to learn and meet the planets. The planet that rules your rising sign is the designator for the entire chart. But in the case with Will, the planet that rules his rising sign is Cancer rising. And anybody here know what planet rules Cancer? Drum roll, please. The moon. So the moon rules his rising sign. It is Cancer is his rising sign. The moon is in Cancer. So we stop time and we go, okay, Mr. Moon face, look at his blue eyes. So he had to learn. So give us a little more story. What did it take? Like that little boy's crying or he's not being able to make the decision. And I'm sure you're getting shamed because everyone's like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. I would get made fun of even by my dad. And he would call me Sunshine and buck up, Sunshine. But then in my teenage years, it turned to drugs and escapism. And then in my 20s, well, actually during Saturn return came and it was time to get real and start learning about my emotions. And so I would like start bawling even at commercials, and I would cry for no reason. And now it's turned into like tears coming to my eyes because I see everybody in love. I love everybody.
It's such a so this is the example of level 3. So he started off as a child under the effect of the sensitivity. It then turned into drugs, which I'm going to say to you, obviously, is Neptune. I would give you 2 planets that are in your chart that are pronounced. Neptune is conjunct his Mercury. So there's the second planet. Neptune rules. He gave me a clue, escapism and wanting to get off planet because it hurts. And then eventually he became emotionally wise and then realized, hold on, are you doing readings?
I am. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's fun.
Yeah, because he's learned. So here's the example of a planetary influence by Will, where it started off one way as a child. It then compounded. Go back to the chart, Adriana. So his moon's in Cancer, pretty much a full moon baby. I'd call you a full moon baby, but it's opposite Neptune. So can you do that big red line? So it's not just the moon, it's also sitting right opposite Neptune, which is the escape artist, and it's opposite is Mercury. So he had to first go through the doorway of drugs and addiction to get all the way to the other side where you found some solace. And now he's doing readings.
Yeah.
So,
And Jupiter just makes it all bigger.
yes, and then he's got Jupiter sitting right next to Neptune. Can you put right there? So it's really, in your case, if I were to say the predominant influence, for sure, moon comes first. And we're looking for, when we teach the class, you can stop sharing, Adriana. When I teach the class, you guys, you'll be listening to the class. I will describe the 10 planets. And after every class, you're going to mark which planet 0 to 10 is influencing you. So if you had to say how much the moon influenced you, 0 to 10, Will, what would you say?
Oh, 10 for sure. Maybe even 11.
Yeah. And then what would you say about Neptune? Are you constantly aware of it, or is it
Oh
behind?
my gosh. Like, especially right now, I've just like all kinds of old stuff is coming up, and it's like, hey, maybe you should smoke a cigarette. And I'm having, shut up, get out of here.
So Neptune is the illusionary memory keeper that brings back associations, and you're having to, yeah. So I would just say, obviously Jupiter is predominant in making this all exaggerated, but in your case, if you were taking Meet the Planets, you would score the moon at 10 or 11. And then so it isolates just one planet at a time. And that's what we're looking at. And once you know it, so now what are you doing with your emotions?
Now I am if I feel overly emotional or anger, I place my awareness on it, and it's impossible for me to be angry when I'm aware, because I go, why? What's there to really be angry about? And
Great.
then I
You're
put myself in the other's shoes.
Exactly. So you distance yourself from the emotion. Instead of it flooding the house, you're now above the water. Don't you think it's so funny that you're
Yeah.
standing above the pool? It's so perfect. Okay, well, there you have it. So Will just is, because he speaks astrology, and this is different than what you're going to see with Taran and Sasha. He has language down. He knows the moon. But those of you that are beginners who can't, oh my God, I love that. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's so Neptune. We're floating in time and space. That's so perfect, for God's sake. So the beginners that are watching this interview, you may not have a clue. And that's, I think, true of Sasha and Taran. If I ask them what planet's predominant, which I'll do in a moment. But clearly, Will is more evolved in that he studied astrology. He's done all 3 levels. He's been able to give readings now, and now his awareness is on, and he's no longer a victim. Dun, da, 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 da. You're a commercial for why I teach astrology. Thank you, Will, for being here. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go to Taran. Taran, if you will you pull up Taran's chart? And Taran, just tell us, where do you live, and give us a little clue, because I knew Will. Give us a little storyline. I'm going to pull up your chart. This is Adriana. Here we go. So, well, before you speak, let me just say, Sun's in Capricorn, the moon's in Pisces. That's beautiful. And Gemini rising. She's got Venus on the sun. Ding, ding, ding. There's a clue. She's got, because I've studied it last night, but I haven't looked directly. She has Jupiter. Look at that. Jupiter sitting on the very top of the chart. That would be a clue for a planet that might stand out. That's called the midheaven. And she also has that beautiful aspect from the moon to Mars. Okay. So Taran, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you live and who you live with, and give us a little storyline.
I'm from Pennsylvania. I live with my husband and my 3 kids. They keep me pretty busy and occupied. I've pretty much just been spiritual my whole life, and I loved staring at the stars and the moon, and always wanted to be, knowledgeable with that stuff. And then a few years ago, I really started, wanting to learn. And it's just been a slow process for me.
So you haven't taken any of the classes yet?
No, I have a million books that I've read and I've bought, and I start a chapter and I get into that, and then I start another book, and it's a lot to learn.
That's right. And that's called Gemini rising. So let me tell you a couple themes that stand out in the chart, just based on the planets. Because obviously, if you take Meet the Planets, I'm going to introduce you to all 10 of them at a psychological level. And then you would tell me, but here's what I would see, because I knew Will. So here's what I would see pronounced in your chart. First of all, Venus sitting on your sun. Can you point to that, Adriana? It's only 1 degree apart. So it's 23 degrees is Venus, and the sun is 24. So let me describe that. Venus is a personality type who is a pleaser because they're all about love. So they spend their life wanting to create kindness at all expense. So they will go out of their way to help another, but they will leave themselves out. Is that familiar?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then I'll start and stick with just that. So when we take you can stop sharing for a second. So let me tell you about the Venus qualities, and then you help me, Taran. So it's the part in all of us. It's, first of all, it's shaped like a mirror. Like if you literally hold up Venus. So that's why, look at how pretty you are. But they never see their beauty because their reflection is not obvious to them. It's only obvious when the other person gives them feedback. So left to their own devices, they're like, really? Am I so nice? And do people always tell you you're so kind and you're so sweet?
Oh yeah, all the time.
And do you do art by any chance?
Yeah, I'm very creative. All that stuff kind of comes naturally to me.
So this is the Venusian. So as distinct from Will, he has such a strong moon that his emotional body has become a theme his whole life. For you, it's the pleaser. So, and how does that show up? Can you describe it for us?
I've looked for outside
Approval.
confidence. Yeah, outside approval my whole life. So that's really spot on.
And has it changed? I mean, this is the gift of taking level 1, 2, and 3, but because Will's got like a running start, but I'm curious if you've been able to change that at all.
Yes, actually, my confidence has been really low, basically, because I've searched for that outside approval. And within the last, I'd say several months now, it's like last year, you wouldn't catch me doing this at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So something shifted. What's her progressed moon in, Adriana? Do you have that, or is that on the sheet? Let me just see. I'm just so curious.
I have it as in Gemini,
And what degree?
25 degrees Gemini.
Okay, perfect. So this is great for you to know. So back to Taran. So Taran, you're in a cycle right now where it's like you've been all over the place. Like there's so many different topics. This is the handicap of Venus. So let me describe Venus as a personality type. The pleaser who has an aesthetic that rules their life. So the things matching, colors. Can we put Taran's picture back up? Not Taran, if you say hello, I think you'll come back. Hello.
Hello.
There you go. So the pleaser, not just the pleaser, but the aesthetic in this life, these people get obsessed with this. Like I'm looking at your art behind your head, like putting things in their right place really matters to you. Is that true?
Absolutely.
And then wondering why other people are so insensitive to their aesthetic or their physical space or their beauty. Like you're always, so this is what you'll learn in astrology in the Meet the Planets class. What planet is driving you crazy? And that would be your Venus, which means that you're great in relationship, your lucky husband, because you're going to create harmony at all costs. You're like, we need to talk. We need to make sure this is real. We need to be connected. You're like that Venus is very physical. It rules touch. It rules beauty, art, smell, aesthetic, creativity. It's like the essence of your world. So see how you can isolate one planet and then you become friends with Venus and you realize, wow, looking in a mirror and looking for approval is not the source of my confidence. And that's
Absolutely.
And then once that changes, this is the gift of astrology, and Will could speak to this, but once you start giving readings or you're helping people by giving them their reflection, it takes all the attention off you. Otherwise, it can make you very self-conscious, which is what I imagine, and shy even. So as a kid, did you do art?
I did. I was actually very outgoing when I was younger. It wasn't until my teen years that I kind of went to my little shell, but I loved painting. I absolutely loved painting. I haven't done that in years.
Really? Even with your kids, you're not doing creative arts and crafts and painting?
Oh, we do more like sand art. We like to create things and then I teach them like to kind of like push it away and like create something new. Oops.
What happened? There you go.
There we go.
You're releasing it all the time. That's so interesting. So if you were to describe your artist that you left behind, and I said to you, Taran, your Venus is ruling your chart. You're an aesthetic, gifted artist with smells, tastes, textures, money, everything that has to do with beauty. And you have permission. This is what you're going to learn in the school, particularly and tell me in Meet the Planets. It's like when I realized my planet is, which I'm not going to go into, there's liberation. So I want to liberate your Venus. So what would it take for you to return to your painting? Like, has it ever occurred to you to carve out the time for you to do that?
I'm learning to do that. I think right now my focus is on like self-care and healing. And I know I'm starting to realize that doing my art is really kind of what brings me
Medicine.
out of that.
It's medicine for you when you're a
Mhm.
Venusian person, because therefore you're by yourself. One of the big things with your chart is you have to be close to someone all the time. Venus people require another person because it's a mirror, but you want to turn it around and say, see, do you love me? I mean, that's so funny. That when you fall in love, what you really want is someone to reflect you back to you. But in the end of the story, it's between you and you. So if this gift of today of me doing this with you was to say to you, Taran, Venus is your planet. Let's go back to her chart, Adriana. It's so simple. There's 10 planets, but when you see something exact degree, it only happens once. That happens, I want to say 3 times a year. Venus conjunct the sun is very unusual. And we can go on to all the others because you've got a very strong Jupiter. I'm going to tell you something. Can you point to her Jupiter? Jupiter's the other, just like Will had 2 planets. You've been born under a lucky star. Did you know that? Do you feel like your life has been blessed?
I do. It's strange. I've always felt that way, even with everything I've been through.
Because Capricorns never have an easy childhood. Hello, you've got 4 planets. But with Jupiter sitting on top of your chart, literally that's the top of this chart. Like if you go to the center of the circle, that's where your mom was when she was giving birth. So all the planets that were visible at that moment, because you're born at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun, you can point to the sun, was just rising, or it was over, because the top of the chart is the MC. Just point to the MC. Yep. And that is where you had Jupiter, the biggest planet in the heavens, sitting right above your mom's head on the top of the sky. Jupiter, we're circling Jupiter. And that tells us that you love Jupiter's not unlike Venus, it's beauty, but it's big and it's in the sign of Aquarius, the astrologer. So you love this shit. It just tells me that you like it's your favorite thing. Why have you not taken the class yet? I'm so curious.
Because I have a million ideas and I can never choose between them.
That's Gemini rising. But if you support your chart, I really want to say to you, yes, you are allowed 2 things: to take back your artist, Venus, and then Jupiter will be your second planet, to let your spiritual, Jupiter being the planet of expansion and luck in the sign of Aquarius. God, you're having Jupiter. Oh my God, you just had Jupiter return. I'm surprised
I
you're
did.
not. And how did that look? What showed up?
Huge changes, actually. I feel like I'm a different person, to be honest. All my perspectives have completely changed, and I'm just more comfortable with changes, which is weird because I'm usually not that way.
It's so funny. You and Will both have Mars and Pluto in Scorpio, and they don't like to change, but the rest of your chart must change because you're Gemini. Okay, that was great. Thank you, Taran. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was so cool. Okay, let's go to Sasha. So let's pull up Sasha's chart. I'm going to look for a planet to grab Sasha. Do you know enough astrology to know what planet influences you?
No, no.
And where do you live?
I live in Portland, Oregon now.
And what do you do? I forgot to ask. Oh, that's right. You were doing.
I teach yoga and I dog sit, and I love people.
Right, 29 degrees of Taurus. So the pronounced planet here, I teach yoga, I love people. I have 3 planets in Capricorn in a stellium right there. You can circle that. Uranus, Saturn. There you go. Saturn is opposite her Venus. Okay. Were you old when you were young?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like a serious little kid?
Uh-huh.
And has relationship been challenging for you?
I've been in many, many relationships, many, many friends, many, many lovers.
I love that story. And is it been something that is challenging, or do you feel like you're a really good student?
A student of relationships or a student in general?
Of relationship.
I feel like I'm learning a lot of lessons as I keep moving on.
So see how Saturn is opposite her Venus? This is so interesting because Taran had Venus on the sun. You have Venus. I'm going to say Saturn. I'm pointing to Saturn as the significant planet in your chart. Do you feel like this lifetime has been challenging, but really like you like to go uphill and you like to stretch and learn and work?
Oh yeah. I like to expand my horizons as much as I can. I like a good challenge.
That is so Saturn. I feel like yeah, I'm going to talk to you about Saturn. So Saturn is to me the most important planet in the whole zodiac. It's the planet that describes us evolving and growing in a lifetime so that we don't come down here and waste our time. And everyone has to ask the question. So am I growing? And you have it since you were young, this constant pressure. I imagine you live with like, what am I learning? What am I studying? What am I like? You're never ending. Is that true?
Yes, I feel like I'm constantly trying to like uncover more like things and just educate myself and spiritually figure out who I am.
And what has kept you from astrology? I'm surprised you haven't been in level 1 yet.
I know, honestly, I dealt with like a lot of sadness and like depression. And then I went into yoga, my yoga teacher training. And then I didn't teach for 2 years because like, I'm not good enough. And then I started teaching and I was a waitress for 10 years and I just kind of was like lost in that. And then I got fired from my job around my Saturn return. My boyfriend left me. I lost my apartment and I got in a car accident. So it was like,
That's all. See, that's all Saturn. So you have a very, very strong Saturn, which can at worst create, you can stop sharing now for a second. Let me describe Saturn. At its worst, it's depression. And it's like learning the hard way, but then like here comes your Saturn return and everything hits you on the head. Some people's Saturn returns are not that difficult, but that describes a Saturnian personality type who is going to get better as they get older. Are you noticing that?
yes, definitely. I am 33 now and I just got married like 2 years ago. And my husband's the best like relationship, best person in my life for sure.
Exactly, because Saturn's opposite your Venus. So here's the upside of Saturn. And you're gonna, so when I'm teaching and you hear me in live.meettheplanets.com, I will describe all 10 of the planets. When I get to Saturn, then you're gonna be like, that's so me. I was old when I was young. I never took the easy path. I was depressed. I felt like everything was wrong, never good enough. That's a big Saturn conversation. And then I finally, Saturn opposite Venus, I found a real relationship and I changed. And now
Yes.
I'm getting better.
He pushes me and he's like, you can do this. You're amazing. Look at all the things you've accomplished. You're an entrepreneur. I'm like, I am. Oh,
It's so Saturn. Because Saturn cannot do, it's not unlike what Taran had with her Venus, that she needed the outward reflection to give her confidence. For you, it's that you need experience. You'll never learn the short way. You'll always walk up the hill. And so whether it's depression and going into depression to get out of it, or whether it's breaking hearts and going through relationships to get to the right one, you're like the cat in the hat. You figure out where everything is by knowing where it's not. That's what Saturn does. They learn everything the wrong way.
I'm like, I know everything I don't want. I'm still trying to figure out the things I want.
Welcome to Saturn. So this is what I mean, you guys. You learn the planet that rules you. In the case with Will, his emotional body was, flooding him. And then it took him off to escapism. And then he turned on his awareness. In the case with Taran, her pleaser has so diminished her self-esteem because she was so basically identified with other people's reflection. And in your case, Saturn said, you're going to learn lessons the hard way. You're going to have heartbreaks and accidents. It's like Saturn's mean. But the upside of Saturn is when you get the lesson, you become the teacher.
I literally wrote down because you were asking like them other questions. Like I have been in so many car accidents, like ridiculous, even minor ones to big ones. And I recently just had a horrible experience with road rage where a guy followed me off the road and smashed my tires. It was insane. And I think it honestly scared me to drive again. And I tell myself positive affirmations and I'm like, I'm traveling safely. I smack my car. I'm like, safe travel, safe travel. And I'm not letting that, steer me, but it's scary. And I am learning a lot from that. I'm like, I don't need to flick people off on the road and I don't need to drive so close to them either.
This is so Saturn. Saturn learns their lessons the hard way. And then to your credit, to turn on your observer and be that powerful to say, I am safe. I have a very similar, my Saturn is very strong. And I catch, Debra Silverman, I'm supposed to be so positive, but negativity comes to get me. And I have to use my Saturn teacher of my own self to say to myself, Debra, you are not scaring yourself right now. And then I unscare myself. Okay, so this was just perfect. It was a half an hour class to say, This is how I teach. It's live time. It's embodied. You now know you're a teacher. So that's the gift for you, Sasha. Saturn is ultimately, as the years go by and knowing everything that doesn't work and how to scare the shit out of yourself, you'll be able to say, here's what I answer. Here's what I figured out. Let me give you a little advice. You'll be like the advice giver, which I bet you are, because
100%. As a yoga teacher, I'm like, here's all the shit that fucked me up. So
exactly. And then we get to learn by your example. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God, this is so perfect. And you won. I love you. It's so cool that you won this free class. So thank you. And Adriana, just to put out there, if you guys are interested in learning about the one planet, see what people do with astrology, and Will, you'll know this better than anyone because you've been studying. They make it so complicated. There's so much to learn in astrology. It's like, but it's as simple as identifying the planet. You're Saturnian. Will is a moon baby. Taran is a Venusian. And when you get to know your planet, you become friends. And then guess what I'm doing next in July? Meet the elements. And that's equally as powerful. Yeah, when you know which element is your missing one, that's my book, you all probably all know, then you stop playing the game called I'm dumb. Like if you know Saturn's your lesson, if I was Sasha, and I would do prayers I would literally, that's so great, Sasha. I would literally, Sasha, if I were you, do offerings to Saturn. And I'd say, listen, I got that you want to teach me, and I'm asking you this request. Don't hurt me. I will listen. This is what I had to do because I have Saturn strong. I said, wake me up before the alarm goes off. I don't need you to scream at me. Don't throw the frying pans. Don't hit me. Just give me the instructions, and I promise you I'll listen. And when you tell Saturn that, Saturn goes, seriously? And then just before you start driving too close, you back up and you go, look at me, I'm so happy. All right. Any questions from Will, Taran, or Sasha just before we go while you got Debra Silverman on the line?
no, I love you and I'm grateful.
I love you too. I'm so thankful you were here today. It was the day after my birthday.
I know. Happy birthday.
I had the craziest birthday yesterday. I had so many flowers. I felt like I was in a funeral home. You know what I did? There were so many flowers. I took them to the neighbors, and I just went outside, and two of the neighbors, well, one of them, I put it on 5 different, I had so many flowers that I put them on everyone's house and tiptoed and ran away so they wouldn't see it was me. But one of them never opened the front door. So do I ring the bell and run away? That's my question, Saturn. Do I ring the bell and run away? Or maybe I just text the guy and say, look out your front window. No, but then they'll know it's me. Oh God. This is so
Flip a
stupid.
coin.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. I promise. Okay, you guys, you have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rest of your Tuesday. You guys, thank you for volunteering, and thank you for being here and being part of our team. Adriana, anything you want to add to Meet the Planet? So if you want to sign up, it's live.meettheplanets.com. And then you can sign up for Meet the Planets or Meet the Elements.
Phil, you got radio?
What was that, Will?
Sorry, there was somebody else talking.
See what happens when you got Neptune opposite your Mercury? You get voices coming in. Oh my God, that's
Right on my midheaven right now too.
Yeah, that was a voice from the other side. Adriana, anything you want to add? Do you want to put in the chat room for everybody? Live, meettheplanets.com.
Yep, I put it in there a few times for everyone. So go ahead and register.
Thank you, Adriana, for being here today and always being our cheerleader. Live, meettheplanets.com, and more opportunities for me to play astrology on Facebook Live. Oh my God, that was so fun. Thanks, Adriana. You can push the button. Dun, da, da, da. Happy birthday to all you Geminis, not just me. And thank you so much, Taran, Will, and Sasha. I'm very grateful.